The first method of assembly I'm going to show you is with brads. Now here I have these are tiny brads, they're mini brads. I bought them at the craft store at Hobby Lobby, but you can also order them online. It's about 3 millimeter wide head that comes to about 1/4 of a centimeter. And they need to be small so that they don't overwhelm and create holes that are too large in your puppet. It's very important to consider what part of your puppet is going on top of what. So in my example here, I'm going to be putting the thigh of the leg up over the calf, and I will be putting the top of the boot over the bottom of the boot, like this. I also plan to put a little slit here at the top so that I can slide the bottom part of the leg in there. And then, of course, the pants will go on top of that, like that. So same thing for here. I've got the top of the arm will go on the bottom of the arm, and the hand will tuck up underneath like that. It's particularly important for when you're doing wire construction, but it's a good idea to just be in mind of it so that your puppet is created consistently all across the board. I think it's very handy to have a little surface like this. This is, it's actually a little cork hot plate that I can put things down in my kitchen, but it works very well for me for poking holes. That way I don't have to hold the paper up and struggle to poke the hole into it like that. I can just lay my pieces down here. I also have a little sewing pin here that I use for poking the holes. It's very thin, it's thinner than the brad itself. I use it for both the brad and the wire construction because even though it's thinner than the brad, it just gives a little opening in the paper so that the brad can fit nicely through. Now I'm gonna just start over here with the arm. I also have to remember which side goes up. Now what I want to do is I'm working to overlap. I don't know if you can see a little bit with the sun through there how you can see the back part of it, but I'm trying to get roughly a circle. Now you can just lay one piece on top of the other and kind of give it a good guess about where your hole can go, or because I've worked really hard to make sure that I have this circular shape, I'm going to place my joint on top of it and just kind of line it up. And then I'm going to poke a hole roughly in where the center of the circle would be. So now you can see if I undo my joint here, this is what my joint is going to look like. And that looks pretty good to me. Then I'll take my pin out. I'm going to grab one of my brads. I'm going to poke it through one hole first. You might have to work with it a little bit, and then poke it through the second hole. Just be gentle so that you don't tear the paper, because that'll be a bummer. And then you can open the brad up, whoops, like this in the back of the paper. Open it up here. Now if you have a problem with the brad sticking out like this, once you have your piece together, you can grab a set of wire clippers. I just moved my camera. Grab a set of wire clippers like this and just go ahead and clip that off. You can just shorten it a little bit. It's easier to me with actual wire clippers rather than needle nose pliers because I feel like the wire clippers you can get a more accurate cut with, but those work in a pinch. So now I'm going to put that down and I'm going to keep assembling. Okay, and there you have it. He's put together with brads, and he'll move all of his little joints, and he'll nod his head when you want him to, all of that. The next method of construction we'll talk about is the wire construction. When you're dealing with paper cutout stop motion puppets, you need a very thin wire so that it doesn't tear the paper or break through the tape as you're animating. This is the 30 gauge wire, and I found it in the jewelry section of Hobby Lobby. Just like in brad construction, you want to know which piece is going to go on top. This does keep the puppet consistent all the way across, but it also serves another purpose because the hole that you'll poke is only in the piece that goes in the back. Just to make sure that I'm carefully aware of where my joint connection is going to be, I also like to make a little dot on the back of the top piece for knowing where my tape is going to stop. I think it is easier if I put the wire on the top piece first. So I'm going to tear a little piece of tape here. I'm using washi tape just because it's easy to tear, but you can use Scotch tape or masking tape or artist tape, whatever kind of tape you wish, as long as it actually holds the wire in place. Now I'm going to take my little flat edge of my tape right there, and I'm going to line it up right on my dot. And that will help me then when I thread the wire through this piece, it will give me a stopping point. So now my piece doesn't go any farther than the joint connection that I wanted it to have. And this is what it will look like on this side. Now I'm going to take it over here, I'm going to cut another piece of tape and attach the wire to that leg. If your tape does end up showing on the other side of your puppet, you can always just trim it down and get rid of it. And now I have a leg with a wire armature. I'm going to keep doing that on all of these pieces, same principle. Just keep in mind which piece goes on top. You only poke the hole on the one that goes in the back and tape it in place.
It's difficult to see here because the video is so fast, but I am not using scissors to clip the wire with. Even a small wire like this can damage your scissors. I highly recommend sticking to just wire clippers if you can.
I just wanted to show you guys something for a minute here. See how when I put the wire through, I don't know how well you can see that in the camera, but when I put the wire through, it's coming up and across my leg. Now I want this leg to be able to move freely, so I need to be careful not to tape this wire onto this leg over here. It could cause problems if the tape is running from the torso to the leg. It'll restrict the movement. So what I think I'm going to do in this case is just bend the wire the other way, tape it up here at the top, and then just snip this excess off. And now we have our little wire armature. Now, whether you're using the wire armature or the brad method, it doesn't matter for animation. It's still the same principle as when we were animating with the clay. You just take it and move it a little bit, get your hands out of the way, take a picture. Move it a little bit, get your hands out of the way, take a picture. Move it a little bit, hands out of the way, take a picture. Just like we were doing with the clay. Don't forget to use the onion skin while you're animating. I know a lot of people were kind of resistant to it, but it is so super helpful for getting your animations right, and for putting puppets that maybe got messed up a little bit back into their position, for seeing what your last position was and how much you've moved it on the new position. Let's see if we can bring this little guy to life. Wake up. Wake up. Hey, little guy. Wake up.
Hey, wake up. Say hi to everyone. In order to keep my puppet from moving around the background, I rolled up a piece of tape and stuck it to a broad part of the back of the puppet where it would not interfere with any of the joints. I used a repositionable glue stick on the facial features. This kept them from moving around, but also allowed me to remove, replace, or reposition them without damage to the puppet.